screen. I'm getting a little tighter in here. Yep, that's all right. We're live. It's JDV with Geno Walsh, the inevitable. Huh? Now, look, you've got a lot of stuff going on.
You're really close to me right now.
That's how it works. You wanted this angle. We got this angle.
I'm glad you brushed the teeth.
That's right. Now, listen, this show is going to get a little hot, if I don't mind saying that. And I might get myself in a little bit of trouble. That's okay. But I'm doing it for the viewers out there.
You're doing it for the viewers.
I'm doing it for the viewers.
How are you going to get yourself in trouble?
Because, listen, I'm going to set the table first, but you believe certain things. And you, I have said, and I'll say it again, are the smartest person that I know in the automotive space. But no one's 100%, bro. No one bats 1,000. Okay? And listen, and I think to your credit, strong credit, you have taken a risk. Processes, business model, whatever. And a lot of people are trying a lot of different things right now, right? We're having everything from Elon Musk. We're having everything from Carvana. We saw what happened there. So nobody knows. Nobody has that perfect crystal ball. We're seeing a shift now from what happened with the pandemic to more of a normalizing. But I think that we're going to get into that. But what I want to do is I want to set the table. First of all, I want to download from you because you've been at NADA, you've been a digital dealer, you talk to so many people, 20 groups, everything like that. I want a kind of a state of the market from Geno Walsh, number one. Number two, I want to talk about Cavalli. Number three, then I want to talk about, because I think there's I've spoken to a lot of people out there in different markets about, marketing, traffic, do you have self-generated traffic? We're going to get into all that type of stuff. And then I want to talk more about like EVs and models. There's a lot of stuff that Audi's doing. There's a lot of stuff that Maserati Alfa Romeo's doing, VW's doing, and we'll get into all that and more. But first of all, tell us where are we at right now with business models, with automotive? I feel like...
Well, I think...
Go ahead.
First and foremost, I'd tell you that we're getting back to a more normal state of inventory.
Yeah.
Which is huge, right? So... There's going to be still a scarcity on the pre-owned cars. When I say the pre-owned cars, I mean the ones that people really want, first and foremost. So that'll be a little bit tight. It'll still be a little bit more elevated, I think, especially on the less expensive cars.
Go tighter on you. Go ahead. You're good. You're good. Go.
The more expensive cars, I think the more expensive cars, there'll be more of those because as we get more new car inventory, especially the IHG, which is import high group cars, there'll be more leasing. And so we'll start seeing some of those customers come back because they're going to have to move those cars. And the best way to move an expensive car is through their leasing platform.
So you think manufacturers are going to step up on leasing?
Well, you already seen it. I just saw a report the other day. There's quite a few makes that are at 0% for 72 months.
Wow.
Ford came out with a bunch of them, plus a rebate. So, and those are the cars that are pretty expensive, but we're seeing it already. It's model by model specific right now. So like if you're looking at, Volkswagen currently right now, the Taos is highly incentivized.
Right.
I just did a deal with one of my friends and family members, and it was a great deal. It was like in the 300s for a lease, and that hasn't been around for a while.
How is that model doing for VW? Where does that?
The Taos is a great car. I mean, it's in that C segment SUV size, so it's not the big people mover. It's a little bit smaller than the Tiguan, but it's great for people who don't have a bunch of family, single people, people who live in urban cities where they don't have a lot of places to park and things of that nature. But it's a great little car. It comes with everything equipped, man. It comes with CarPlay and everything these cars come with is fully connected. So it's almost like you're driving around with an Apple phone.
So tell me this. I'm going to front load something right now. I'm going to come back to this, and we're going to get real hot and deep into it, and maybe we'll agree, maybe we won't, and that's what makes it great. You've got a big talk coming up, right? The CX thing in Monterey, California.
Yeah. So you were talking about risks, right? So
yeah. Okay.
I think it's kind of funny because it's not a risk to do what the customer wants. So
right.
Our business model, our single point of contact, the Cavalli way, is built on 3 T's. And it's transparency, it's timeliness, and it's trust.
I like that.
And through those 3 T's, we're able to, they're completely connected to what the customer wants from an experience. They want it to be fast, so it's got to be timely and efficient.
True.
They want it to be transparent so they can make the decision themselves.
There's no question about that.
All right, and they want to be able to trust the information that's being given to them, right? And they want to be able to, the definition of a good deal is buying a car from somebody and someone's going to take care of you long after the sale, and that's part of the trust factor too. So is it a risk to do the right thing for the customer? I don't think so. Is it a risk to maybe sacrifice some gross in the short term, sacrifice some profit in the short term for long-term benefits? We're sitting here at Audi Lakeland right now. They have a number which is called regional sales effectiveness, and this store is like at 140% regionally sales effective.
Okay,
which is a huge number.
That's a big number.
Yeah, like I think the nation and the market is like 1.06. It's like a low number compared to where we're at. It's still good, but our loyalty scores, brand loyalty is in 67% range. Our dealer loyalty is in the high 50s, almost 58%. The nation is at 25%. Our 2022 scorecard was that high. Even our AFS loyalty is great. It's because of the process, and customers would rather have 4 rings than 4 hours, right?
I love the 4 rings. So let me make sense of this for maybe the non-automotive people out there, right? And what you're saying is that this store is overperforming.
No, what I'm saying is that because of the experience that we deliver to the consumer, they want to come back and do it over and over and over again.
Right. And that there's obviously huge opportunity out there in the automotive space from some people that maybe don't have the same experience at their dealership groups.
Yeah. So so here's the deal. Like when there's enough inventory, then experience will trump everything. Right.
It's not that I have the one unicorn and you have to deal with me.
Yeah, like I remember back in the day when we had inventory shortages with Audi, and I remember I had like the only black A4 in the entire state of Florida.
Right. You're doing business with someone.
And a customer calls me and
wants a discount.
And then I wants a discount. I look in the machine and I'm like, hey, I got the only one. Like those days are going to be gone.
Right.
Now. So now it has to be about, at least what I believe, which I think if you're going to call it a calculated risk, or you're making
well, it's fine. You're making some bets.
But if you're making some bets on the customer's experience, I think you're making the right bets.
No.
You know what I mean?
I'm down with it. Absolutely. Obviously, I'm sold. I get it. And again, we're live on LinkedIn. We're talking about business. We're not promoting. But here's what I'm saying. I've seen some things out there, and I can try to pull up the citations later. I'll put it on YouTube once I get home. Who knows when? I'm not going to promise that, but I'll say if I do, then that's where it'll go.
Yeah.
But there is statements from obviously leaders in the automotive space. I think if I recall correctly, not alleging anything, not casting any aspersions, from the leader of CarMax, and I want to say Lithia, I believe, they're saying, hey, look, it's okay to sell a little bit less and do it more profitably, to maybe like throttle down on market. I don't want to say market share, but volume versus gross. What are those, as a leader here of a group, how do you look at that?
I think you want to, this business is about customer acquisition.
I agree with you.
Okay, so
Thank you. Now we're talking my language.
You want to acquire as many customers as
possible.
So that you have them in your life cycle.
Because I think that's fool's gold. I mean, obviously they're leading stuff that I'm nobody, but I mean, I agree with you.
I don't think you're accurate with CarMax or Lithia. I think they want customers just as much as everybody else. I don't think they're going to bypass customers just so they can meet some kind of metric.
Well, I mean, you want them, but check the quotes. I mean, there's a talk about growth versus volume.
I don't want to quote anybody that I haven't read on.
Fair enough.
I would tell you that, I think those businesses want to acquire as many customers as they possibly can, because especially a large publicly traded automotive franchises dealership, that they want to make sure that they're getting as many customers as they possibly can into their service department.
Right, absolutely.
We went through a reduction in the SAR over the last 3 years, and you're starting to see it in the service department right now. You have less bumpers in the lane because guess what? You sold less cars.
Right.
Like that's just it's
math.
math.
Right.
It's not magic. It's math, not magic. So I don't think people are gonna we want to walk away from this deal because it doesn't fit this perfect metric. I think they want to acquire every customer they can, because it's much easier to sell somebody who's done business with you than somebody who hasn't done business with you.
100%.
And you have their contact information. You can market to them. if they allow you to, right? And you can, you have that direct connection between you and the consumer and the dealership, whether it's for service, it's for parts, or for it's a redo of a vehicle. I think one of the things the manufacturers slipped up on the last 3 years was they did not incentivize leases enough.
Right.
So you've literally, a lot of people came in and bought their car out, right? Because the lease payment was higher than what their current payment was to do a lease buyout, right?
I know.
So those customers are no longer in the cycle, right? They're not on the string anymore because they don't have to come in anymore. They can go anywhere they want to go to purchase a car, right?
That's dangerous.
Well, it's a jump ball.
It's a jump ball.
So
that's a good way to put it.
We are in the part of the market where I think we're going to start seeing jump balls, where everyone's going to be fighting for that customer because there is no direct connectivity anymore. So the money that they might have saved in incentives or leasing, or the exposure that they might have reduced in incentives and their leasing, will be amplified now to try to acquire those customers.
I love that. I see. Here's some things I want to put on the table. I don't want to say my theory necessarily, but when we went through COVID, the grosses were high, the inventory was low.
Well, let me just be honest.
Go ahead.
Okay, not that I haven't been so far.
No, go ahead.
Manufacturers are not concerned about a franchise dealer's grosses. Okay, so that's first and foremost.
Right.
Okay, so but they are concerned about using too much incentives or too many programs.
That's where it gets them
in order to sell a vehicle.
Because
right?
before, to try to, you're obviously super knowledgeable, but to try to get maybe the regular viewer up to speed here, the way it used to work, in my opinion, and you know more than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that the manufacturers, they make a bunch of vehicles, they'd throw it on the car lots. It was up to you to sell them down.
Well, the manufacturer gets paid as soon as we get the car.
Right. So here you go. They're going to shove you full of cars.
Well, they're going to give you as many cars as they can. The ideal market balance is one less car than the market needs.
Exactly.
Right?
And we're saying.
And we're probably getting like 3 or 4 more than the market needs. And I'm using a small number.
No, right. But in that environment, then we saw the incentives from the manufacturers, discounts from the dealers. COVID happened, supply chain. Is there still a affinity towards build to order almost, like the Tesla model? Like
the American consumer, especially post-COVID, they can get anything they want whenever they want it.
Right.
Whether it's Amazon, Grubhub,
whatever.
Netflix.
They don't have to come here.
If they want to go somewhere and get something, they want to get it instantaneously. That's still the cultural acceptability
100%
in our world right now, especially in the United States. The waiting for a particular vehicle only can survive if there's not an opportunity to purchase another vehicle, right?
Exactly.
But if you're waiting for, let's say, an Audi SQ8, right, and it's a year out.
Let's put you in something else now.
Well, we could try that, but like the customer sits there and waits, and then something else becomes, fancies their eye.
The Land Rover, the Jag, whatever.
They don't want that car. So the manufacturer can't have just that model and get that acquisition that we're talking about. Because cultural acceptance in the United States of America is like right now.
That's right. That's what I
want.
think.
Whatever the product is, right now.
Okay, so just to show my cards, where I'm coming from is, I think exactly right. I think the build to order is not really.
Build to order works if you have the perfect car that everybody wants.
Exactly.
Okay, if you have kind of a tweener or a car that really doesn't get people to, it doesn't have some kind of specialness to it.
Right. Then
build to order is really difficult.
Right. I think we're going to go back. Maybe not exact. I mean, obviously, I think it's not exactly the way it was before. I think there's going to be a major competition right now for market share. It's going to start in serious here pretty soon. I think there's going to be a competition for. I think we're going to see volume go up. I also think customer acquisition cost is key.
Well, volume will go up just because they have more cars.
And I think there's a lot of hidden customer acquisition costs, and I think marketing is key, and I think there's also a war for talent. Oh, by the way, I know you have to go. I just want to know what level of time frame do we have here?
Got another 20, 30 minutes.
Fair enough. That's plenty. Okay. Do you agree with that? I think that there's going to be a competition for talent. I think marketing is key because I think people got a little lazy during the pandemic, and they didn't think that they needed advertising and marketing, and I think those...
Well, I don't think... the laziness is probably not the word.
Maybe... Okay, I'll revise that.
The necessity.
Okay, I'm on that.
Like, you're not going to spend $100,000
if you don't have
if you
to.
only have 30 cars to retail.
Okay, fair enough.
Makes zero sense.
Revised and amended.
If you have
thusly.
300 cars
Different.
to retail, then you might have to spend $100,000 to do so.
Well, I think we're going to get into a situation where you're going to see some big winners and some big losers, right? I mean, we saw that with the inventories and used cars, and that's another thing I want to, let's throw that on. How are we doing with used cars and values and losses?
Like I said, you're going to see some downward pressure on used cars on the more expensive type, right? Because the leasing and the incentives on the IHG car are going to kick in. So when the consumer looks at a vehicle and it's $70,000, whether it's new or used, they have to consider that it's every $1,000 that they're borrowing is $20 per month on a monthly payment, right? So they look at a $70,000 car, that's a $1,400 payment, right? Mm-hmm. So if a consumer has the option to buy the competitive brand on a strong leasing program for $900 a month or $800 a month, and there's not that much of a difference between Model A and Model B or Brand A and Brand B, well, guess what? They're going to take the one that has the $900 or $800 payment versus the $1,400 payment.
All day.
So that's the competitiveness that's going to occur on the used cars too, right? Because a $70,000 car that has no program on it, right, and that there's not enough of, then people are willing to pay $65,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was $70,000 plus an adjustment of another 15 or 10 grand on top of the car. So that was an $80,000 car with an MSRP of $70,000. But now there's another brand that's out there, another car that's out there that's similar or like, and that's an $800 car payment, right? So even for the used car customer, that $70,000 car that we used to be able to get $65,000 for, well, now it's competing against the lease on Brand B that's $800 or $900. So why would you want to purchase a pre-owned vehicle for $1,200 a month or $1,100 a month when you can get almost the exact same car
got a better
for
substitute.
$800 or $900?
Right, absolutely.
Right?
Superior
There's less
substitute.
risk involved.
Yes, that's right.
On a lease, because at the end of the lease, if you don't like it, you turn it in.
Turn in.
You get in an accident with the vehicle, you have no depreciated value.
Yep.
Especially if it's just a minor accident. Those are the worst ones to get, right?
Why do you see, let's talk about that. Like, why do you see, very quickly, like, there's so many topics I want to talk about. And
but do you understand the point of where that downward pressure is going to
come?
come?
100%.
Now, on the less expensive cars, there's not a lot of them in circulation, so they're going to hold their value.
It's all about the substitutes and alternatives, right? And so why do some markets are so, and I mean, some of it may be having to do with policy, but why are some markets like say South Florida, California, New York are so lease friendly? Not friendly, but just But why do so many consumers lease there as opposed to other markets in the same state?
The higher propensity of human beings to be living together, the less driving that they have to do. So, if you're in like a county in Texas, it's a half an hour to get to the corner store.
Right.
So that's, you're driving 100 miles a day.
Okay, right.
So that's 3,000 miles a month.
So
right? You know what I mean? Like,
which areas kind of lend themselves to leasing?
But if you're in a market where, my job's 5 miles down the road or even 15 miles down the road and the kids' school's 5 or 10 miles down the road.
Right. And
the max that I can possibly do in a day is 30 miles.
Yeah.
Well, 30 times 3 is what? That's,
right.
900.
Right. Lease me out.
That's 900 miles. So
right.
900 is less than 12,000 miles a year. So you get a subsidized lease. So it's literally based. So those states that you mentioned,
right.
California, New York, and Florida, and portions of Florida, they're not driving that far. So Miami.
But some in California, like LA.
There's some driving there, but it's still pretty tight, right?
It is.
Still,
okay, that's a fair point.
In LA, it takes 4 hours, but you're only driving 10 miles.
Right.
So the lease still works.
Right.
They don't charge you by
have
the hour
lease hack there,
doesn't charge you by the hour that you're in the car. It just charges you by the mileage. Right.
So do you see changing in compensation? Do you see a competition for talent right now? Like, what do you think is or let's hit that, but also let's buttress with that, or sort of with that.
Well, I think.
Let me just throw this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is what is really driving success right now, besides the customer experience in the process, whatever like that, but like, why is store A doing better than store B and all that? And obviously, so talent, I think, drives into that too.
Well, the longer that you can keep people with talent at your store over a long period of time, you're more successful.
That's everywhere.
Okay, so that's first and foremost.
Okay.
Automotive has always struggled to get people of a certain age to come to work for us because it's never been like, hey, you know, when little Johnny or little Debbie.
I always dreamed of
in
being
elementary school.
auto, whatever.
They want to be, you know, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. Nobody walks up and says, I want to sell used cars.
Right.
Except for the dealer's son or daughter, right? So
right. We've seen a lot of
but
yes.
But so it's not, you know, it's not an aspirational position originally, right? So a lot of us.
How do you address that?
Well, a lot of us fall into it, right? If you like cars and you like nice things, it could be a really good place for you. If you were a server, if you worked as a bartender, it could be really. If you have the gift of gab, if you can have a conversation with somebody, if you can play the memory game pretty well, it's a pretty good position for you.
Do you think compensation for most people?
Well, what I'm saying to you is that if you don't change the customer's experience, it's going to be harder to gather the people that are younger that are propel this industry going forward. Because they don't want to deal with it either. So the 23 to 25 to 30-year-old person doesn't like the back and forth negotiation, doesn't like the lack of transparency, doesn't like how long the process takes. So not only are you changing your customer's experience, you're changing the experience for the talent that you have at the store level.
Yeah.
And so you can take somebody who's, you know, barely ever worked in automotive before, but has, you know, the capacity to deliver customer experience and the capacity to use an app or the capacity to use some technology, and then you put in some energy and training and development and care, then they can be successful because they don't want to be involved with a 4-hour experience either.
Right.
They want to you like the car, you like the way it drives, you like the payment.
Right.
Let's get it over.
Right. You're like an advisor as opposed to the confrontation.
Yeah. Well, it's just, you know, there's so many layers in the traditional process, right? And so, you know, you have a BDC person, and then a BDC manager, and then you have a floor closer, and then you have a sales manager, and you have a salesperson, and then you have, you know, a general sales manager, and then you have, you know, somebody who does follow-up for you, and if you're at a BMW dealership, you have a genius. And you got all these people, and the customer just wants to have one person to deal with that they've already built some trust with, and they, you know, feel like that's their person.
Who knows what's going on with
John Villarreal is their person, and when they pick up the phone, that person can answer all their questions regarding the vehicle, the contracting, any of the products that they purchased at time of delivery. You know, as opposed to, you know, having to talk to, well, you got to talk to this person, and you got one person that's got to talk to 200 customers a month at some stores.
And that has to, right? That single point has to build stickiness with customer loyalty.
It's huge, yeah. Like, you know, like we've had some salespeople that left to go to do traditional, and they've come back, and then all their customers were like happy that they were coming back.
That makes sense.
So yeah, it's a huge thing for them. They get to deal with their one person, right?
Now that grosses are down, do you see compensation going down, staying
flat?
I think
grosses going down is going to, if you're in a traditional process, it's going to be really hard to hold talent, because, you know, the front end gross is how they pay the salespeople.
Right.
So if there's too many vehicles in market, where your story of the manufacturer highly subsidizing and your story of the dealer who's, you know, looking at a, you know, 7% interest rate on their floor plan, 6.75 interest rate on their floor plan.
No, it has to pencil out.
So they want to get rid of the cars faster too, right? So they can earn their factory money, and they can earn their, you know, floor plan credits and the whole 9 yards, right? So you have margin compression massively, right? So, and
how much does volume make up for that?
Well, here's the deal.
Go ahead.
Margin compression is not the salesperson's fault, right? Like, they didn't manufacture the car, right? So, but it doesn't matter, because
that hits their paycheck.
It hits their paycheck because now they're competing against brand A versus brand B.
So as a leader, what do you do?
Brand A, dealer 1 and dealer 2, right? So you think about it, like, we had these $5,000 front end grosses that they were paying 25% on, and it goes down to a mini, which is a $200 or maybe $400,
huge change,
$300 number.
Huge change.
So now, as a salesperson, if you sold 10 cars and you were averaging $1,000 a copy to your pocket, which is $10,000.
Correct.
At $300, you got to sell 30 cars to get to the same $10,000 in front end.
It's a 70% pay cut.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. And
brutal.
With single point of contact, if a salesperson's in that gross compression world, still going to get the same Mini, but now they have an opportunity to sell an extended service contract or to sell guaranteed asset protectors or road hazard or maintenance or any of those products where they get a small commission, but it's a lot more than the
You've got some compensation protection.
Yeah, so you can make, and I'm not, giving any away trade secrets, but you can make almost the same amount of money as you made when we had all the gross compression just on the back end products.
If you focus on that.
If you get good at it. If you build value. Because those ancillary products are something the customer sees a lot of value in because they're services, right? They're not cost. There's no value in cost. Customers do, if I can buy brand A, model Y from the one customer, from one dealership for $5,000 less or $2,000 less, I'm not going to pay more just because Johnny works there.
Right, exactly.
Or Debbie works there. I'm going to pay the same or less if you want to earn my business, especially if you're not in the same market as me.
Right. I've always said that. As good as I think I am and everything, I think maybe there's a small margin there.
So what happens to those people? Right? Because I remember back in the day when you sell a $100,000 car or $20,000 car, it takes the same amount of time.
Right.
So, and if you sell a $100,000 car, you're probably going to get paid less now,
right,
than on a $20,000 car,
right.
So what happens to those people is they burn out.
Yeah,
because maybe they go from 10 to 15, but at 15 deals, they're probably making 1/3 of what they made before.
So let's get to that. There's a couple things, and I have so much more ground to cover here. I think we're good until like 210. Is that right?
Yep, 205.
Right. Okay. So as a leader, like a lot of times they say, okay, well, we won't sell as many cars. It's kind of like housing with pricing and interest rates. There's some inverse ratio, right? So like, okay, grosses were high, but volume was low. Now grosses come down, but maybe volume goes up. But when you're talking about what happens to the salespeople, the talent right there. So what happens is, in order to make that volume, you've got to give up your days off. You have to live at the dealership 360, 24/7, 365.
Well,
I'm being facetious, but
here's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
If you want to be good at anything,
of course,
anything,
right,
you have to be there mentally and you have to be there physically,
right,
like period, right? So if you're not there mentally when you're there,
right,
it doesn't work.
Okay.
If you're there mentally but you're not actually there, it doesn't work, right? But I think if you come into work, just like if you're 4-time national champ, right? If you come into work or you go into the gym with a plan,
oh yeah,
and you follow through on that plan.
Oh, I was training when other people were partying.
But then you could be more successful, right?
Yeah,
you don't have
100%.
to put as much energy and effort into it. You don't have to be chained to the desk, so to speak, right? Because
and it's the momentum too.
Well, no, but you come in with a plan. If you come in, just to do the mayor stuff, like go meet the people in the service department, check and see how many toilet paper rolls are in the bathroom.
What's for lunch?
You're part of the What's for Lunch crew. You get there and you spend half of your morning being the mayor of the dealership and high-fiving people. Well, that's not a plan.
Correct. As the saying goes, you have to take control of the day-to-day, takes control of you.
Yeah, well, you come in, if you have a written plan and you focus in on that written plan and then you manage yourself by the metrics, right? Because like for me, I think, okay, if I was a salesperson, I would find out how many phone calls it makes for me to get an appointment, right?
Right.
Because appointments are the lifeblood of the business.
All day.
Right? Because there's no more up bus. Doesn't matter where you're
no.
at, right? So you have to set appointments, and when those appointments show, I want to know how many phone calls or emails or text messages or car film videos or whatever it is that I got to do in order to get an appointment, right? Then I got to understand that I can set one appointment doesn't mean they're going to show up.
Right.
So I probably had to set 2 appointments for a person to show up.
Right.
So let's say, for example, it takes 15 phone calls to get an appointment.
Okay.
Well, I need to do 30 phone calls to get an appointment to show.
Right.
And then in those appointments that show, right, only one of them is going to buy. So if I don't go into work every single day thinking I got to make 30 phone calls to get one appointment, I got to make another 30 phone calls to get 2 appointments because only one person out of those 2 appointments that show are going to buy.
You really got to try to get to 2 to 4
appointments a day. You got to get 4
day.
appointments a day.
Yeah.
You get 4 appointments a day, you can come to work and work your 25 days and sell 25 cars.
Right.
But if you come to work and you're the mayor of the dealership and you're not on the phone and you're not trying to procure customers, whether it's from looking at old leads, making phone calls to equity mining tools, if you're not like looking at your old customers and following up with your old customers, and guess what? You're out.
So I'm going to come back to that. That's interesting because I think, and this is where we maybe there's going to be some disagreement. We'll see, but I like that. I see that. What about, so as a leader, like how do you address the talent issue? Is there changing pay plans? Are you trying to be flexible on hours? Are you doing anything different? Or like how do you...
Here's the one thing. If you can sell 30 cars a month, you can have whatever hours that you want.
Okay, I like that. All right, now we're going. Now we're getting.
But
somewhere.
I'm just serious. Like,
no, right. I've always been that way too.
You can't do 30 one month and then expect to get some kind of special treatment. Right. Some of the best salespeople I know, they, get a week off a month and don't work any weekends.
They may be on a cruise right now.
They probably are on a cruise. No, I'm serious. I know people.
I know.
And not even some people that you know, but some people that I've known for a long time that sell 50, 60 cars a month, that they have their own assistants.
Oh, I love that.
Right? But they didn't get there just because they showed up one day. They had to work their way into that number, right?
Well,
so my point is just, and this is a dirty word.
Go ahead.
It's like the most dirtiest word that's out there, especially with people from a certain generation. It's sacrifice. If you're not willing to put the sacrifice in, it's going to get really hard for you to be able to call your own shots. Right? If you think that just because you have a lot of talent, it should just be, the door should be open sesame, and you should just have the red carpet rolled out, but you're not willing to sacrifice. And I'm talking about not sacrificing for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, but for like a year or 2 years, that you're providing evidence, like consistent evidence, right? I always say that intensity is not as important as consistency, right? If you're not doing that on a consistent basis, then it doesn't matter how talented you are.
That's interesting, and that you're a great athlete, obviously, four-time national champion. I mean, we talked about different things. I'd like to think I have some talent, but really, it was the consistency, and for sure was the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I talked about just
and those are two dirty words out there in the lexicon right now, because there's so many people out there that see somebody on the outside and think, oh, I could just do that. They look at
Instagram life.
Well, I don't know. Look at the Kardashians, right? Like they think that, oh. Well, I just do these makeup videos, and before I know it, I can become a billionaire and sell my own makeup. That's not how it works.
Not at all.
That person probably did hundreds of, maybe even thousands of videos before it actually even took off,
my gosh,
right?
100%.
So, or somebody who thinks that they can create an app. Well, they probably created hundreds or maybe even thousands of apps before it even worked.
Yes.
So the consistency and the sacrifice was there. You just don't see it. Like, nobody sees the 20 years of hard work
for the overnight success.
Exactly.
100%.
So what I would tell you is that if you want to be good at something, you have to be here mentally and physically. But if you want to, give folks, some kind of interesting arrangement on when they're going to show up, that's great. Okay, cool. Work only Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and see how that fills your paycheck. Now, it could fill your paycheck really well if when you're there from 9 to 5, you're doing 9 to 5 stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because we all know people
I don't think any leader or any general manager or any business would not want somebody that worked 9 to 5 that sold 25 to 30 cars.
Yeah, exactly. Because here's what happens a lot of times.
Who wouldn't?
Is sometimes some stores you start going bell to bell like a week out from the close because you're not there. And inevitably what happens is people show up, but you start getting the 3-hour lunches. You know what I mean? Like people kind of phase out.
Yeah.
But there has to be that cohesiveness. There has to be buy-in from the team. There has to be understanding and flexibility from the leadership. And this is a continuing conversation because
this is a show me business.
It's definitely a show me business.
It's not a friend's business.
It's correct.
It's a show me business. If you I always say I'm from Missouri, which is the show me state.
Yes.
But if you could show me that you're consistent and you can do 30, 40, 50 cars a month, give you a whole section.
Right.
But if you just want to do 15 to 20 and then complain about stuff that it's not perfect for you.
But again, it depends.
Then fall off and do 10 and then fall off and do 9 and then things don't go your way. Those are some of the things that it's not.
Fair enough. Yeah. But it's also dependent upon where you're at in the market. I mean, if you could do 10 Bentleys, you'd be a superstar. 10 Toyotas is not so great, right? So it depends.
Yeah, there's
store and brand dependent.
I would say there's some factors related, but if someone's doing 10 Bentleys, and they're bringing in $250,000 a month in gross, yeah, that's a complete
they're all good.
Yeah, but that I can tell you right now, that person selling 10 Bentleys is working a heck of a lot more time than that person.
And when you're successful,
than a person selling 10 Toyotas.
Yeah, you want to keep, of course, you want to keep it rolling while you're hot too. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes, and I want to go lightning round on some of these things to some extent. And this is the one I really want to talk about. And it's obviously I'm very biased, of course. Marketing, where are you at on that? Do you think that some people try to
spend so much money on marketing? Lots and lots of money on marketing.
But I'm not critiquing anything.
No, I'm just telling you.
Okay, that's very. Sorry, ready.
When you spend that much money on marketing, you realize that 50% of it works and 50% of it doesn't.
Right.
The trick is to figure out which 50%.
Right.
So even when we have all of the metrics that kind of give you an idea of what works, it's still 60% of the time it works 100% of the time, right? So yeah, marketing's great. I think if you are a salesperson, and we're going to go down to the primordial, the ground level.
Yeah, go ahead.
Salespeople got to market themselves.
I agree with that.
The worst feeling in the world is when somebody that buys a car,
someone else,
from somebody else, and it's your brand.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst. What did I do? So if you don't have your own, if you don't have Snapchat, you don't have LinkedIn, you don't have TikTok, if you don't have Facebook and you don't have Instagram, and you're not trying to deploy multiple levels of that on a consistent basis, then you're going to miss out on some business. And those are the extra little, trinkets that are going to help you.
It's hard to get buy-in on that, though.
I know. Well, it's hard to get buy-in.
Instant gratification business, right?
Because it's not, right? So, but you got to do it over a long period of time. But then you become the subject matter expert.
Yep.
Right. But,
I'm in on that.
But if you have a sphere of people, they need to know what you do, right? So if you don't, make sure that you're at least letting them know what you do on a consistent basis. One of the easiest things to do, if you have a group of friends on your Facebook page, is that you get an alert from Facebook every morning that says, these people are having a birthday today. It takes you 15 minutes maybe. It depends on how many friends you have, right?
Yeah,
if you have 5,000.
You got a lot of friends.
More. But even 5,000 takes you 15 minutes to go and say happy birthday to them. But then if you change it from just happy birthday to have an Audi birthday, then you're marketing what you currently are doing, right? So that's I know that everybody knows.
I'll Audi all summer.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I send that every single day. I will send it, and if I'm late, I'll.
It's awareness. It's
awareness. It's
that's smart.
Birthday,
I like
right?
that actually.
So whatever brand
really
you're
good.
in, have a VW birthday, have an Alfa birthday, have a Maserati birthday, whatever it is, and then they laugh. Some of them do, right?
Yeah.
I wish I could get an Audi.
It's catchy.
Yeah, but it's something that's
memorable.
Recognizing them for their birthday, because people love that.
100%.
People love when they know your birthday. And then they really like it when you know their name, right?
Yes.
But it also gives you an opportunity to try to connect with them. And next thing you know, they might not even buy the car. You'll have somebody else say, hey, I got a friend who's looking for an Audi. And next thing you know, you get
I think
that's a simple one. That's not even a big one.
one.
That's not even there's I just downloaded this Reels app where they do all the work for you. You take pictures, you press the button.
It's automated.
It pulls up 15 pictures, puts music behind it, and
you're done.
Throw it into your social media posts. You could throw it into your work media posts. And it gets eyeballs on there. People love videos, right? So
I love video.
That's another one. It's simple. It costs you $24 for the year to have this app. Why not? You sell 1/3 of a car. You want 1/10 of a car.
You're set.
For itself, right?
But I believe that marketing is key. I think there's a lot of brand, the marketing, the events, the branding, the merchandising, all these things, and it's underutilized. And I think there's a lot of hidden costs because I'm so glad you led with this. It all comes down to customer acquisition. So what happens sometimes is marketing sells cars, but price sells cars. And so you don't do the marketing, you haven't built value, and then when someone comes in, they're gonna slam you on price because you haven't built that value beforehand. Yeah. Because if you look at Ferrari, right, their SUV, all sold out before anyone even saw one or test drove one, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's value there. Or on the used car side, what you do is at the end of the month, oh my gosh, we're not moving 90 days, we're gonna blow out the price. Now you just drop the gross on that car $2,000, and what you did is you used price as your marketing.
Yeah.
So so it just cost you $2,000 plus to get a customer.
Well, You might have been wrong in the car though too. So there's a
No,
little,
no,
there's a little
yeah.
more of a factor into that.
But you
side
see
of
what
it.
I'm saying? Like,
if you take a car in the right way, then the car sells itself based upon the market day supply and what the
no,
market's
there's multiple
bearing for the
factors.
vehicle.
What I'm saying is there's some hidden costs here that if you don't spend it on marketing, it's going to get you worse on other factors. Right?
So there's like 3 trees.
Go ahead.
In selling a car.
Go ahead.
There's the marketing tree, right?
Yes.
There's the commission tree.
Yes.
And there's the price tree.
Right.
So if you're all in the commission tree, you're going to be spending too much money in paying people to sell cars, right? And eventually, they either make too much money and they leave because I'm done.
I'm set. Yeah.
I'm set. Or you can't. Some people won't even be incentivized by money. Like you put $1,000 spiff on a car,
right?
And they're like, who cares, right?
Right.
So the commission.
No, but
the commission tree kind of can work against you, right?
But let me just say this, because a lot of people may not follow that. It's a very important point. So what happens sometimes is that dealerships will put spiffs out or leadership puts spiffs out. This car needs to go. And surprise, surprise, the car that sat here for 90 days, now that's going to pay you $1,000 to move it moves in a weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, because you probably priced it right too, so there's probably a combination.
Multiple factors.
Yeah, multiple factors, but
motivation now.
Motivation. So, but at some point, everybody hits their saturation level.
Yeah.
Like they can't get satiated any more than what the current money.
Yeah.
So the money doesn't work anymore on the commission end.
So you have to push on the other levers.
So you got to push on the other levers, right? But that's why you have to have balance, right? It's the same thing with advertising.
Yeah.
If I didn't spend any money on commission and I didn't change the price of my car, yeah, if I spend $250,000 a month in advertising, yeah, I could sell a bunch of cars.
Right.
But I have unhappy salespeople and probably some aging in my inventory.
And we've heard some of that back in the day in West Palm area, right? Yeah. You got to make it all work.
Yeah, and then if you discount the cars too much, then you're not going to have the margins in order for you to pay the people who are talented.
Exactly.
Right? So you got to have a combination of both.
That's
the
very
market.
good. I like that.
The market manages it though, right? Because if you're not compensating your sales staff at the appropriate levels for the type of vehicles they're selling, or if you're not marketing out there to try to capture acquisition of customers, or if you're not priced properly, the market will dictate your success levels.
I like it. Okay, we're super tight on time. I'm going to throw these 3 out there. You take them as you want. Besides Cavalli, who do you think out there in the automotive space is doing good now? And also, just a quick talk: EV versus IC. Go ahead.
The number one automotive group in the land now is Lithia, so they're obviously doing something awesome.
Yeah. Overtook AutoNation.
Yeah, but like I've seen them go into some of the stores. There's a couple stores that I've seen them go into and just like not double, but quadruple or triple, or I don't even know how to say five-druple, whatever you want to like.
Quintuple.
Yeah, quintuple. They quintuple the business.
Why? How? Why?
Well,
What's
because
going
they have
on?
a different level of expectation. They have great management. They have great leadership, and they, have a playbook that's worked
that's their
over
process.
and over and over again, right?
Okay.
So, that's part of it.
Plus, there's probably some economies of scale with inventory.
Well, there's engagement, right? The factory probably helps them, gives them inventory.
Of
right?
course.
But I think they do an awesome job. I mean, that's a great
For
organization.
sure.
Asbury does a great job. I
Yep.
mean, all the big corporate, publicly traded dealer groups do a great job. They just do a different version of it across the board.
Absolutely.
Right?
EV versus internal combustion versus hybrid. Like, what do you think this mix looks like?
Well, I mean, a hybrid is like having a sailboat with a motor.
Okay.
So it's a good start
Okay.
on the journey. I've had EVs. I've had 2 EVs before I got a hybrid, had a hybrid and got another EV. So since 2020, I've had a form of electric vehicle.
But you're a tech person. You're an early adopter. You're in a place where it's charging.
Yeah, but
here's my question.
It's math, though. It's 10 cents a mile versus 50 cents
I'm
a
down,
mile,
but
right?
here's my question. It's 2023. In 2025 or 2030, let's go 2025. What do you think this percentage looks like?
We're at 9%, 7 to 9% now, I think. I think you're going to see 2025, 12 to 15%.
Okay.
But you got to do 50, but with a growing number, right? So if you,
Right.
10% on 12 million is what?
10% on total.
1.2 million,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
10% on 17 million is 1.7 million, right?
Right.
So if more cars are being sold, You have 1.7 million people that are being infected by the EV process.
Well, that's the growth,
right?
for sure.
Yeah, so like it's a different manual of arms, as they say. Like if you're into firearms, you'd know what that means.
Yes.
You know, once you drive those cars and your expectation levels now, you know, I don't have
shifted.
to go to a gas station. You know, I control my own, sphere of whatever you want to call it. They kind of get into it. They have all the technology. You don't usually take all the ICE features, roll up windows and things of that nature, and put it in an EV car, right?
No.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was at a conference and I asked this question because there's data that's out there. So what is the loyalty rate or capture rate with Tesla?
That's interesting.
It's over 85%.
Right.
In some models,
Crazy.
It's in the high 90s.
Oh my God.
And I'm talking about just selling them a car. I'm talking about repeat business.
Yeah.
So you look at it.
They're like the Apple of cars almost.
Well, yeah, you look at it from that because it's a completely different manual of arms to drive a car. I had one for a week, and it's like the first 3 hours of driving a car, it's disorientating because it's not the same, right? So those people who drive those cars get into one of our current vehicles, and they're like, "Wow, this is completely disorientated." Like, so they go back to Apple because they have their Apple Music, not their Apple. They go back to Tesla because they have their Tesla Music that's in there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a completely different thing.
They're all set up. All right, last question. Economy. Because obviously it's very much tied to the business.
I mean,
what do you think over the next year?
The interest rates are not conducive to high volume, right? Because we look at it on a weekly basis, but we're in the high nines.
Oh my goodness.
For average interest rate across the board. So the manufacturers are going to have to come to the table with lower interest rates to incentivize customers to purchase their products.
Yep.
Otherwise, the dealerships will go, no, we don't want it anymore.
Right.
So that's one of the headwinds. But every time that I think about this economy, like when is it going to stall out or sputter or
keeps
turn
going.
into a recession, it keeps going. And so, like,
I think about 2 weeks ago, I kind of shifted into.
I'm tired of trying to predict when the demise is coming.
Yeah, I thought it was either going to totally fall off a cliff, or I was cautiously optimistic. And I think the last couple of weeks, I'm a little bit more cautiously optimistic. I think we're going to kind of muddle.
I think
through
I'm
this.
super optimistic because
okay.
Yeah, well, the reason why I would say super optimistic on it is because there's still a backlog of customers that need to get out of their ICE cars.
But you mean for automotive or overall?
Oh, just overall. But
okay.
Automotives are really like a canary in the coal mine.
It absolutely is. Well, that's why I want to.
Right? Right. So, but there's still all this pent up demand. So whether it's refrigerators or it's television sets or TVs, or getting some work done in your backyard, or getting a pool put in. There's so much pent up demand that got built up over the last 3 years, and everyone is employed. It's really hard to me to see a world of a recession with a 3.5% unemployment rate.
Let's talk about that real quick.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. Do you have a feeling on? I mean, obviously, automotive is very different, but just in general, because Martha Stewart made a comment here about back to office, and Google's going through this whole back to office thing. How do you feel about the whole back to office versus remote work?
I think that you can have a combination of both.
Okay.
But you have to be productive.
Right. I think that's the whole thing.
Yeah, like if I had a salesperson that never was at the dealership, but they were selling 20, 30 cars, I wouldn't care.
Right.
Who cared?
Right.
You just got to get there.
Right.
If you can't get there, then
it's
it doesn't
just results based.
Yeah. You can't have a salesperson that's not working at the dealership and selling 5 cars and expect to keep them.
Right.
Or her. Right.
Either whatever.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of the balance is the balance based upon merit and performance.
Geno Walsh is always awesome. Can't wait to have you on again. Talk to us about what you're going to talk about. What's going on in Monterey, and what are you going to talk about?
Well, it's Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey, excuse me.
But it's in LA. So it's CX Auto 23, and what we're going to be talking about is the customer's experience, hence CX, right? Customer's experience. We're going to be there with Kirk Preiser from Audi of America, who's in charge of the retail experience team. We're also going to be there with a gentleman from Holman. And then a couple other guests there. But it's more than just our part of the conference, which is just a small part of it. But it's everybody getting together, like minds, talking about how we can improve the customer's experience going forward, right? And some of the stuff that we're going to see there this year probably won't be implemented for 2 or 3, maybe even 5 years from now. But there's some really awesome things that not only are the dealers doing, but the dealers and the manufacturers are partnering together in order to improve the customer's experience.
Are you going to be able to share that with us later?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be happy to give you an update on what the customer experience was.
And also, I don't want to put you on the spot here. I hope I'm not stepping out of line here, but I think you've got I've been following some of your stuff on social media. You've got a couple superstar kids out there, including a soccer star. What's going on with that?
I mean, my daughter is playing in a regional tournament next week, so we'll see how that goes. But that's a perfect example. Like, she doesn't get to play in those games or score goals unless she puts in the work.
Exactly.
So you want to work with your kids. My son's 5.3 GPA. He's taken the SAT a couple times, but he's trying to get to this special number.
Let me because I'm.
I'm just telling.
Sorry.
Well, you look at those kids; they put in the work. So a lot of people think that they just show up and it happens. I have my daughter's like going on Sunday training on her own, and she's doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday training, Thursday training, Friday training, and practice, preparing for this tournament that's coming up.
I love
just
it.
Like he went,
right.
Just like he's taken the SAT 3 times because he wants to improve his score so he can get into this certain school.
So I want to put this here because it's a lot, because you just brought something up that's very, very interesting. I'm a parent. I got a 5-year-old, and a lot of people, like someone's been very, very successful like yourself. What's that? I mean, you've been a D1 football person, so you're very driven. What's that parenting mix? Like how much?
Well, you can't tell people what they want to be because they'll fight against it, right?
Right.
But if they like it, you have to encourage and develop it, and then you have to make yourself available to be their Uber driver to all the stuff they want to do, right?
No, but I mean, like how much of like the Geno work with like. I'm not articulating this question right. Like what do you think is the right approach to have your kids to be a great parent, but also have your kids be really successful too, and not push too much, I guess.
I mean, they have to want to do it though, bro. Like you can't tell people what they're going to be. So but
let's say if someone wants to be a piano player or a soccer player, then you talk about discipline. I'm sure you instilled discipline.
Yeah, well, you got to tell them if you want to be successful that it's not going to happen just because you want it. It's going to happen because you work for it. And so when they want to be lazy or they don't want to do that thing, you got to be the one that is the accountability person for them and say, no, we got to go.
Okay, so there is accountability.
Yeah, well, of course. And there's accountability for you as a parent if you want your children to be successful. Is that you can't just take the day off, right? You have to be able to tell them, no, I'm going to go. Like, you got to drive all the way to this. Lead by example. You got to drive all the way to this place for this kid to go practice, and it might rain out. Engagement. And you're still going to go. Right. That's why I said make yourself available. And it's, again, non-intensity, consistency. Can't just be worked at. Yeah. I love it. Geno Walsh. All right, man. The best. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. For Geno, I'm John. We'll see you next time.